Got such a huge crowd here tonight, so we have an existence of a quorum, so we're going to call this work session of August 26th together. Everybody stand for a moment of silence and pledge allegiance. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. We pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We got food, right? Do we have food?
We do.
So how do you want to do that?
I would say let
Let
Ashley
Ashley do
go
her
and
stuff.
save her time,
Time to
and
get
then
home,
if we
yeah.
can eat after.
I agree. Joe, are there any changes to the agenda?
No.
So under consent of the board, we are going to adopt that agenda. And we have tonight with us Ashley from Mosley, excuse me. And Ashley, we're going to turn this whole thing over to you.
Thank you, Chairman, Dr. Farrell, board members, for giving me the opportunity to come in and speak to you. And hopefully my computer's going to work because there's like a million pop-ups that y'all can't see. But so we're going to talk about a really exciting thing. We're going to talk about the grant application. We're going to talk about all the work we've done on the study of your two schools and more importantly, the workshop we held related to LJ Bell. So great news, application period is out. So it opened on the 18th of August and they are giving us till October 3rd to submit the application. So we have, it's not a rush, but we don't have all the time in the world. So I'm going to go through my presentation. We're going to kind of talk about next steps and then we can open it up for questions. But at no point feel like you can't stop me. I'm glad to answer anything along the way as well. So some of the project parameters, we are, after going through the program, we're at 71,000 square feet for new square footage. That's right around the square footage that we talked about in the last presentation of new square footage for LJ Bell. We're still looking to renovate the gym building and auditorium. One thing that's come up, and we'll talk about this a little bit more as I move into more of the presentation related to the building, looking at possibly renovating that pod building as well, or at least keeping that active or available for renovation. And the board voted to look at the LJ Bell site. So those are our parameters. So now let's talk about the workshop we held. I think this was a really exciting thing. We had a lot of participants. I think we had 10 people. We had 2 board members, and hopefully they conveyed some of their excitement to you. But this was just an activity for us to gather a lot of information. We do this with all our projects. It's a little early on this project since we don't have the funding for it, but we thought it was a great way to kind of outline the needs of this project as well as really provide some meat behind the grant application. So we did an idea mining exercise. This is a little bit of icebreaker, get people going, thinking. Also, it allows us to hone in on what's important for the project. So you can see here we ask a lot of questions. We ask about challenges, opportunities, what everybody saw the new LJ Bell to be and how it would be successful. And then we did a word cloud. And these are the words that came out of it. This is where the emphasis was put related to that, those exercises. And so a lot of times I'll pull safety out of these because that's just a no-brainer for us. But I think it's important to have on this because having an older school, these are some of the things that we don't see within our older schools, and a lot of times those are being revamped related to safety. And so I left those in there, but also you can see beyond the safety and improving the safety is student-centered learning, intentional learning spaces, honoring the history. So we know that those are big pieces, and we will continue to reference this throughout the process, but these are important pieces of what makes the LJ Bell project special. So we also did an exercise, and again, this is a little early, but it helps us start understanding kind of context and building itself of what the exterior could look like. We have tons of images up. People vote on those. You'll see stars on that. That's kind of what we call our super dot. That's a little extra weight to that vote on those. And this is not what the school's going to look like. Obviously, we are way ahead of the actual design process, but it gives us some understanding of kind of materiality and aesthetic that the group was leaning towards. So then we kind of move into an exercise where we call playing architect. So each group, we broke into 2 groups, and the 2 groups got to move program pieces around and start honing in on what adjacencies were important, how the school could be laid out on the site, how the site starts relating back to the program inside the building as well. And then obviously we've got 2 pieces on the site, the auditorium and the gymnasium, that are important because we're going to keep those. And so how do we connect those? How do we start looking at how those relate to the new pieces or the new portions of the program? And so these are the 2 visuals from the small group exercise that the groups came up with. Again, they don't look like buildings, but they give us a lot of input on what's important and how circulation happens within the building. We talked a lot about site and how students load and unload the building so that we understood that from an architectural standpoint. And we looked at one option kind of staying away from touching the existing building, and then one option looking more at putting the building on top of the existing building. So those were the 2 things, and it's hard to tell exactly what's happening, but this is a little bit more of a courtyard scheme, and that one's more of a connector between the gym and auditorium. So our team then spends, the entire rest of the day coming up with schemes and options that kind of hone in what came out of the workshop with the group. And so these are the common themes. 2 levels, that the site basically puts us in that position where it's going to be 2-story building, similar to how LJ Bell is now. We've got some terrain there, so we're going to overcome that with the stories as well. Keeping the existing auditorium and gymnasium, a learning stair or social stair. This is an element we see in a lot of schools nowadays, and it was something that the committee was really drawn to. So you'll see that in some of the options. And then adjusting site circulation, there was some look at utilizing Hawthorne Avenue, and we really want to get away from that, so we're not mixing the middle school and elementary school traffic. And so that was a big push from the designs. Keeping the front door where the front door is now was a lot of the discussion. So not changing kind of the address or maybe how the front door directs itself to the road. And then constructing the new building where the existing one is located. So we did a few options that looked at keeping the existing building. They created a lot of hurdles. It's not that it can't be done, but it really was not the way that the group leaned. I think it started showing some of the struggles that will be had on a day-to-day from utilization of playgrounds and circulation of traffic. So we'll move into this, and again, at any point ask questions, or we can wait to the end and kind of talk through any of this. But these are the 4 concepts that came out of the actual workshop and were presented back to the group and got feedback on. So in concept 1, this is the one that really focuses on that courtyard. You can see here is the gymnasium, and the auditorium is this piece here. So having a bar that kind of connects where the existing school is now, and then connecting around to create a completely enclosed courtyard. This concept 2 leans more to having the auditorium and the gymnasium, and then creating this kind of spine, if you will, that goes back into the site over where the track is currently located and playgrounds. I think there's a lot of great things for this, but this was not one that everybody gravitated to, because I think there's some things that some of the other ones, other concepts, kind of answered needs better than this particular one. But it does create like a 2-story atrium space within the school versus a courtyard. Concept 3 is the one that looked to keep the existing school fully in operation while construction was occurring. I'm not going to point over this cord, but the auditorium's here, existing school goes out that way, so you can imagine that it would remain kind of to the right of the building, and then at some point come back and be deconstructed after the new building is built. It does create some connection hurdles with connecting it to that auditorium and the gymnasium. The auditorium kind of remains as its own piece in this connection. It also turned the front door away from the existing entry, and there was some concern about utilizing this more residential road as the main road for school traffic. And then option 4, this one was the most maybe liked or voted for as we kind of walk through these 4 concepts. The only thing about this was that this one did look at rebuilding the gymnasium versus keeping the gymnasium. So you'll see in kind of our next iteration how we address that. But the thing that everyone gravitated to was having that main entry where it currently is located. That's generally where you enter the school. You can see the auditorium there in purple. It has admin and guidance kind of flanking that main entry point. And then it has media, and then on the lower level had the cafeteria kind of at the end of this main connector bar, and then the classrooms kind of splaying out from that in the classroom wings. So a lot of great things there. Obviously, we're really early on, and one thing I will reiterate is this is just for the grant application. So when we get into full design, after you obviously are awarded the grant, a lot of these things can continue to adapt and be refined and changed, but these are great steps towards having some backing for your grant application. So the refined option, like I mentioned, the option 4, concept 4, was really the one that the committee gravitated towards, and so we made some adaptations to that, and this is it sitting on the site. So you've got your entry in, we've got our drive coming around here, our visitor loop. This is where students would be dropped off at the main entry point. We're actually reutilizing the parking area in this. Some things would have to change because we're gonna have to address the new grading for the new building, but you can see generally that's where the main parking lot is right now for staff. We would just break that from the circulation path. The bus loop is currently shown as it is now. You may notice this dotted line here, and I'll talk through what that looks like, but it does allow us to still have the bus loop still be associated with the auditorium, because there was discussion that that's how students arrive to school and where they're kind of queued up before school starts, and so we want to still acknowledge that that's where they're located. So the things that are different about this related to concept 4 is we are keeping the existing gymnasium and the classrooms that are associated with that. You might see the word roof on there. That is just the roof on top of the classrooms that are adjacent to that gym. We've got all of our classrooms, the media center, and the dining, and I'll show the floor plans in a second, are still located kind of at the end of this corridor here. And then we do have the opportunity, as we kind of work through how the site lays out here, to have that pod remain. Now, in this particular thing, we have shown that it could be utilized for EC and pre-K. That is not something we talked about with the committee. It was just something we were thinking about. This dotted line here is showing that we could also take those program pieces and still incorporate them internally to this building. And then that pod could be utilized for whatever the district feels like it needs to have that building for. But it was something that came up in the workshop, and we wanted to entertain it and see if the site plan still allowed for that building to remain. These boxes here are just placeholders for playgrounds, play fields, things like that. And then obviously if this building were extended out to accommodate those program pieces, this bus loop would rework, but I think we can still accommodate the drop off within this. We would just have to look at having a different curb cut for how you enter in for those buses. So looking at the floor plan, again, this is much like what we talked about, but we've got our auditorium and gymnasium remaining, those classrooms here. There's a lot of talk of that might be a great spot since they're currently housing EC classrooms, to have the art and music actually move over there to create a bar for specials classes. And so having those, again, these programs could be accommodated in that block there. We've got our younger learners on the lower level. We've got a STEM space. You can see that connector connecting back to the dining. And then we've got auditorium, admin, and guidance there flanking the main entry, and then the classrooms and the media center. So I'm going to pause for a moment, let you guys, if you have any questions right now. I know you have this in front of you, so you may have already flipped ahead, and I can flip ahead too if you need me to. But I want to give a little breath to give you guys a moment to ask questions. Yes.
For you or Steven, do you remember when the pod was built? What year the pod was built? 60s, 70s? Yeah.
It was about 20 years after the school was
So
built.
70s. So Ashley, do you know, again, we're trying to get rid of old schools and old buildings. And we're keeping the auditorium, which is old, but if you say we can keep it, is it beneficial to keep that? We're losing land, you know, we're playground area, whatever. You know, I wasn't at the workshop, so I know some people probably would have said that, but in the long run, is it going to cost us money to keep it up and so forth? So those are just questions.
I think it's something to explore. Obviously, it's not something we looked at when we did our initial kind of cost analysis and square footage analysis for when you guys voted on the option to look into. But I think more than anything, it does show that this option allows for that if that is something that makes sense. But we have not looked at the pod as an element to absolutely keep. I've only been in it once.
Yeah.
I'd like to go in it again and look at it a little bit more related to that, and we'll obviously incorporate that. But I don't think that really changes the approach to the grant. I think it could be an alternate if it does serve as something that the district might find value in. We could have it as an alternate to have it renovated if, you know, you move forward with the grant process and are awarded. I think just because it is a standalone building, there was interest in, does it have value beyond the whole school as, but I don't think it has, I think it needs work. How about that?
And just one other question I had to know everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, the other question I had was about where to place the building, like we've talked about. And I think as a board, we probably, as the grant is being received and so forth, and if we get the grant, I think that's one of the first things we're going to have to decide is so we can tell people in our community, your kids are going to be here for the next 2 years. So that's something that we're going to really need to focus on as we get that grant is, you know, can we keep the kids on campus if we're going to move it in the back and so forth. I don't like having the main entrance back off that back road back there because then you really go into the community back there. So that's just something that we're going to have to, as you know, architects and engineers, you're going to have to tell us what to do.
Right.
That is a big question out there, though. What will happen with students and staff while the construction's going on?
Right.
Yeah. So you're right.
The pod area had to be reput on it last year in the summer for $360,000.
And you,
a lot of work done there.
just my thinking is that we are building a new construction to not have to keep on fixing things.
That's true. Yeah.
Any other questions, guys, for Ashley?
All right. So we'll talk a little bit about next steps. So I put together a really basic schedule or timeline. So we'll finalize the study, and then we'll be ready to submit the grant in early September. And then we anticipate maybe the state will surprise me and submit an award in October, but we're just gonna say November, and then they can surprise us all. So award in November, we will just go ahead and roll with that you guys will be awarded. So then you'll put an RFP out for design. You'll award your designer. I would anticipate that taking approximately about 3 months just to get the RFP out there, have people have time to submit back. You guys interview or however you want to make your decision, and then to award and have contracts in place. The design phase, it takes about 12 months to do this. So, you know, we're looking at about the early part of 2027. And then that project will be advertised, bid, and then roll into construction. I would anticipate a school this size to be about 14 months, maybe 15 months, and we can probably find another month in here just depending on how some of the early timing works out. But that would be the time period, kind of right around the end of this green area where you would need to start advertising or making those announcements, whether it be everyone stays on campus or not. Obviously, we will be at a point where you'll know that information. Mm-hmm. So the community, right now, there's no discussion about that. We are in the grant phase of that, and then as the design starts rolling and, you know, we or whoever the designer is rolls into making some of those early decisions about how the building gets laid out, that would be when the board would need to make those decisions about what happens during that yellowish bar.
Which puts you at the end of the 26-27 school year anyway, so.
Correct, correct.
It comes out pretty close.
Yeah, and then you can see the opening of the updated LJ Bell campus would happen at the beginning of that 28-29 school year.
So Ashley, if I may just ask, I'm
Yeah.
looking at this, so let's assume that every star aligns, right?
Every star.
Every star.
That's a pretty bold assumption.
I know. I said, let's assume that just for the purpose of this
try.
discussion. And the board if the board decides to move the students and staff off that site,
Correct.
would they need to move at the because we're not going to, I would prefer not to move them in the middle of a school year.
Right.
Right? I'm seeing Meredith go, yes, please. So would we be better off to move the students, if we get the grant, move the students at the beginning of the 26-27 school year, which is the beginning of next school year? So we move them over the summer and let the LJ Bell building be empty while we do the greens and the pinks and get to the yellow.
Right. So you have two options, obviously. You have that option where you're moving here, or you have the second option, which is you're moving in the middle of 2027. I would really say I would look to a contractor, and we can discuss delivery methods at whatever point to help advise on what is the best thing. Because there's a lot of things that can happen on the site with the students remaining on, but I don't know if that's the best way to tackle the entire project. And I would really want to look to the expert in construction to make sure we're making the best decision for you, or you're making the best decision. We're advising you the best way. So I think, yeah, you've got 2 points. One is in the green and one is in the yellow. And as soon as the project starts, that conversation needs to happen, obviously.
Okay, so we would either have students off-site 26-27, 27-28. Either way, they're going to be off-site for 2 years.
Right.
Okay.
So could this be the last year of LJ Bell? Look at that chart.
It sounds like it could be, depending on what the construction
If we move the kids.
experts recommend. If you move the students and staff off-site, this could be the final school year in the current LJ Bell building.
Until
Long displacement though.
construction.
2 years.
To run across town.
Well, it's gonna be 2 school years either way if we're not moving them in the middle of the school year.
So this one, you could have a chance of only having 1 school year, but there would
Okay,
be
okay, I got you.
the hurdle of having construction on site for the end of your 26,
Yeah,
27
that's
school
correct.
year.
I guess if I'm channeling my inner Stephen King here, Stephen is saying, that's gonna be rushed, right, Stephen? Yeah, and so that's why I'm asking, like, just so that I can start wrapping my head around. I mean, it would be great if we could only have them off-site for 1 year. That would be great. But either way, we're gonna have a school empty for a full extra year. I mean, either way.
Right.
It'll either be LJ Bell or some other site, so, okay.
That timeline is fantastic.
That's really good.
Well,
is.
I think it's good to see the visuals, these, to understand how long these chunks are. And like you said, there are some stars that have to align for all of this
Yeah.
to happen this way.
Oh, and getting construction stars to align, boy, that takes magic.
Ashley can do it.
Ashley, is it through the whole green part that the board can have input?
Oh, absolutely.
The whole green?
Yes, yes.
When is, at the end of that, it's got to be, this is it?
So here's how I explain design. So there are 3 different phases that we go through in design. We go through schematic design phase, we go through design development phase, and we go through construction document phase. Schematic design phase, we're getting basically the outside of the building set, right? So we generally have the footprint, we're sharing that with the civil engineers, they're starting to do grading. And so when we get done with that schematic design phase, we would request we don't move a lot of exterior walls, because it starts dominoing who it affects. Then when we get to the end of the design development phase, that's the time when we've done kind of laid out program, and we've asked every person we can think to ask about, how the programs function, and, where the teaching walls are, and technology, and how you would circulate the building. And so after design development, we hope that we've kind of got all the interior walls set. Because again, if we start moving those, now we've got all of our mechanical has to change, all our electrical has to change. So, and then when we get into construction documents, that's when we start actually drawing it so that the contractor can build it. So we're in the details. So along the way, we're gonna ask you as a board to give as much input, but we also are gonna kind of give you some stop points on the kind of input we can get. We don't want you to come back at the end of CDs, which is construction documents, and say, I wanna add 4 classrooms, because that's going to change that green bar and how long it's gonna be. It's also gonna start affecting all the things we've already made decisions on. So, but we will be very clear about what kind of decisions we're gonna need a pin to be put in and things like that. Does that make sense?
All right, I have another question. I just know what I like about construction, making it pretty and making it green or blue or pink,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
I wanna know, if we design or make our suggestions for the design, I don't even know how to ask this, how will we know that this will work? And they don't start digging and they dig into something that, oh, this is not gonna work.
So that's why you hire experts, not only in a design aspect, but in a construction aspect, because we're pretty good at our job. We're still human. I'm not gonna say we don't make mistakes, but we're gonna make sure, but we're also gonna show you a lot of images along the way, right? So that you can understand it, because I can look at a floor plan and I know what's happening. Most of you probably can't look at a floor plan and visualize the end product. And there's nothing worse as an architect to have somebody walk in the full scale model, which is the final building, and not like what they see. So we want to make sure that along the way you understand what that full scale model will look like, so that you feel comfortable that it's gonna work. And you can say, as a board member, it's gonna work, even though I'm not an architect, I'm not a contractor, I'm not a interior designer or whatever.
Well, I was
I will
mainly
say
talking
I-
about water lines and
Also, that-
all
so-
that stuff that we've had problems with.
And I do agree with you, Bob, Sue, that would be my concern as well, because it is an older site. We ran into that problem at one of our other sites that we had unexpectedly, so it would be kinda good to kinda know, have the experts in there to kinda look at it, and so we'll know going into it what to expect. I mean, I know unexpected things happen, but that's the thing that really concerns me about,
Right.
like, this being an older site, and I guess back in the 50s, I mean, it was just different coating, different things that got by with
Yeah.
coating than it is today, you know.
So, things on existing sites are gonna be, there's going to be some unknowns. One thing I can reassure you on is that we will have a geotech done, which is actual borings that are done in the soil so that we know what kind of soils we have. We will do underground, utility, survey to make sure that we find as much as we can. Now, there are certain things they can't find, cables that are just run loosely, those don't get picked up. But overall, between the knowledge of your staff of where things have been laid in the more recent future and what's get picked up on the underground, that gives us a pretty good idea of how we work around utilities. Now, there might be some utilities that are underneath the footprint. That's okay, because we will work to have those worked around. We would not build a building on top of existing utilities. We will work those around your building. That will be part of the construction, and that will be part of the cost, so that will not be an unforeseen. We will know that, and we will tackle that.
Well, one of the major concerns or whatever is displacing the students. And so if while you're doing that, you find something, it's gonna move that timeline different. It's gonna change it.
Well, our goal is to not change it. And you will have a contract with your contractor that they will be held to a date, and they will
We-
do
we
their
have to
best.
honor
Now, your giggles, but, you know, we will advise, if we were the designer, we would advise you on the contractors that we have had great experiences with. We would hope that even if it isn't Mosley, that you would have your designers in those kind of interviews to make sure that you are picking the right team, because that's what it's all about. If you have the right team members, you will end up with a better product, and it will be a better process, even during construction. And I know construction is a lot and it's scary, but if you have the right contractor on board, it is a better experience.
Well, the better the process, the better the building.
Very true.
Do you, these 4 concepts, have you built these before?
No, these are LJ Bell specials.
Yeah, because I know that, like, when I built schools before, most of the architects we've used has already built this type of school, and we just go visit it to make sure that we
Right.
like. So, you know, one thing is that as a board, we probably could go visit, let's just say Mosley's
Yeah.
the architect we decide. We can always go look at some schools that you built and done all that to help us make the decisions that we need to make.
Yes. Yeah, they will not be exactly like this, but you can see quality, materials. You know, we talked about that learning stair. You can see one of those kind of things.
So just another question. When you've come and looked at LJ Bell, has an engineer come and said, yeah, we can save the auditorium, or is that still an iffy subject?
We have not had someone come and say specifically. We feel pretty confident that the way it was constructed, there is a clean line to save it, renovate it, and then build a new building.
Okay.
Where's your closest, most recently completed project?
Let's see, closest. So we have a high school in Alamance that was completed pretty recently. We have a lot of elementary schools in Wake County that were completed recently enough. I can get a list.
Yeah, just
And-
out of curiosity.
yeah.
East Rock was built in
Rockingham, but that
Okay.
was obviously, has a little bit of age on it, but.
I still call that one new, come on, I don't put age on it.
It's a great building though.
Yep. Good design.
Yep.
What other questions?
So where are we like today with the grant?
I can start writing it tomorrow, based on those parameters, based on this information. Like I said, nothing that we will submit holds your feet to
Yeah.
the fire on it has to look like this. It just shows that you have done due diligence to make sure that this approach works, that it fits on the site, all of those things. So, I can put the grant together, share it with staff, they can review it, make sure I haven't missed anything, and then, that can come back to the board, and then obviously has to go to the county commissioners.
So would the grant say that we're still in the process of either putting the school where it is or behind? Would we have to put that in there? Or?
Yeah, I don't even think you would need to put in that specifics. I think more than anything, it would be, that it would go on the site. These are the elements you're looking to keep and renovate, and, you know, you've done advanced planning. Cause that's one of the questions in the grant application, is talking about advanced planning. So that's really what this exercise has been. It's been advanced planning to, you have an option that works, but there's also, the opportunity to explore keeping the students on campus and how that works as well.
And board members, if you are awarded the grant, at that point, you would then select a construction delivery
Right.
method, you would then select a firm. So today, I think the question is just, are you good with this general concept to be your grant application? Is that right? Is that the purpose?
Everybody,
I'll make the motion that we go with this, cause I was in that meeting with Bob
Yeah.
Sue, and I think it would be great, what we talked about. I mean, cause I could almost visualize this thing happening, you know.
I like where you put the gym, it looks like you left it.
Right, right, but it
I
makes
don't
sense.
like it at the front door.
Yeah.
you don't like it at the front door?
No.
Come on now, PE's the most important class for us.
That's
Good.
exactly what I think.
There's technology and all that included in the
Yeah.
grant.
Yep.
And then right now we're trying to get the smart panels and things on rotation. So by 28, the things that we have now are gonna be outdated, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around, planning for that, so all the technology
Yes.
and all that.
Yes, so, the question was, is everything related to technology, incorporated into the grant application? So the way the grant application is written, there is construction, there is planning, and then there is what they actually call it other, but then they explain what that is. What we call that in the industry is soft cost or project cost, and that incorporates things like the geotech, but also things like technology.
I know when we built a school in Scotland County, we had a lump sum money for furniture and technology. So at that time, all the smart boards that were put up, or all the TV screens, that came out of that sum of money with FFTs, or what, I can't remember what it was called.
FF&E.
Yeah, FFE, so,
Yep.
yeah, you will have all that. So, we had a motion by Mr. Etheridge to accept this. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Tillman. Any further discussion? So I have a motion to accept the Mosley document so we can start the grant application. All in favor by saying aye. All opposed? So we are going to move forward and see what we can.
Great. Exciting. And, we will get to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ashley, thank you so much for all the work that you do for us. It's great.
Absolutely. I like doing this stuff.
Yep. Any other comments by board members for this?
I just got a question, Eva. Hey, looking at the timeline, so where would, then we're gonna have at some point if we get the grant, school closing? So I guess we have to go through that process of if a school close, I mean.
At the very end.
Okay.
So, because, well, you wouldn't, because you're starting with LJ Bell and you're gonna end with LJ Bell, right? So, school closing process really only happens if you are no longer using that school number.
Okay.
So even if you are to move LJ Bell somewhere else, it's still LJ Bell Elementary School, we're still using that school number, we wouldn't go through school closure. So you would, go through a process if you were to move it of changing the address, but you don't have to go through the school closing process.
So would the school, school still be named, let's say we moved it to the form, right now, what we call the ninth grade academy?
Mm-hmm.
So will we change that name of the school to LJ Bell School? Or how
Sure.
does that work?
Yeah, I mean, so if you're just moving it temporarily during construction, right? Yeah, we just continue to call it LJ Bell and say, LJ Bell temporary located.
Okay.
Yeah, and my daughter's school was rebuilt in Wake County, and so they had to move to a different campus for a year, but it was still Brooks Elementary School, just over there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then the ninth grade academy number just kind of sits there.
So ninth grade, did we already close it?
We already,
Yeah.
It's what?
we closed ninth grade
It
academy.
is
Right now
closed.
it's the ECC Resource Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it'll change to the LJ Bell number. And so then, like she just said, it'll be LJ Bell.
We'll just change
And
the
then when LJ Bell
address.
moves back, LJ Bell will move back to its location where it is now.
And whatever we turn that building into will become that school.
Right.
Absolutely, yes.
Mhm. So generally, I look at it as, are you ending with the same number of schools you started with? And if yes, then you don't have to do a school closure.
But when we get the whole process done, we'll have one less school.
But that will be, if the original plan was to move Monroe Avenue to Ninth Grade Academy
Right.
building, it's the Monroe Avenue building that will go through the school closure process.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Just one step
One step at a time, yeah.
So where are we at with refitting Ninth Grade Academy for elementary students?
So, Stephen, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so we focused this summer on getting Ninth Grade Academy to the high school and getting it up and going. And, I reached out to Dr. Carter, Dr. Farrell, we have a meeting set for the 15th to meet at the site. Gave Dr. Carter a full plan so we can figure out, okay, all these rooms need to be this in the future. We're gonna get pre-K and EC involved, and so they can tell us exactly what we need. We're looking at putting out the RFP for playground. So, I've kind of had all this in the background, thinking about it, but I just haven't had the time to devote to it until now.
I get that.
We're definitely moving forward with it. So, like I said, we have that meeting set up the 15th, and then we'll keep putting stuff out for bid, painting, just all the things that we need to do.
And so once LJ Bell rolls out, theoretically Monroe Avenue could roll right in with no problem, right?
That's correct.
That's
Just
right.
change the sign.
I mean, desk and everything stay, and that should be an easy transition then.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, what about, like, I'm thinking ahead, so, I know we probably hadn't got this part, I'm sure you guys probably do some kind of transportation study, I guess seeing, okay, with moving the kids temporarily from LJ Bell to, the new LJ Bell temporarily, house, what the cost would be to house those kids, or transport those kids there?
Mhm.
Are we gonna look at that too? So
Okay.
if it's additional monies that we need, we kinda need to know beforehand, so if we need to go to county commissioners or whatever, we can at least have an idea.
What is it, a 3 or 4 mile difference between LJ Bell?
4 mile, maybe 5 mile difference. The cost, the thing you would pull down to, I think, would be your trailers, your learning cottages, whatever you wanna call them, which they are astronomically expensive to have per month. So the difference in the cost of moving kids by bus compared to that that's a no-brainer.
But is it gonna hurt our efficiency rating that we've been working so hard on? Does it change
should-
because of?
no, it should
As long as it's in Tim's and we are following what Tim says, it won't affect our efficiency rating. And our buses are being monitored and kept up.
We'll do a little research on how do we determine the cost, the additional cost, if any, of transportation to move the LJ Bell students and
Because it's
staff.
gonna be an additional
There-
cost,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're moving further distance from where
Well,
you are.
if you're driving 5 extra miles a
That's
day,
gonna be additional cost.
yeah, it's gonna be additional cost, so
you
we'll
still need-
we'll do some research on it.
Yeah.
I'll probably be interested in getting, try to calculate it as best I can.
just be helpful, just kind of have some numbers kind of work with. That way, if we need to reach out to commissioners or whatever, I mean, at least we know beforehand.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, actually, we're gonna keep our fingers crossed. We're gonna say some Hail Marys, I guess. We're gonna do it all. But thank you. Is there anything else for the good of the cause? Anything else? Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Ballin, second by Mr. Ezra. All in favor by saying aye.
Closed session.
Oh, we going into closed session or anything? No?
We don't have a closed session on the advertised.
No.
Out of here and under an hour.
Out of here, but we got food, so let's stay
Yeah,
in
there's
fellowship and
there's
eat
lots
some
of
food.
That's it.